March 15, 1952, 14:30 local time. The relief ship HMS Protector anchored in Hope Bay, its hull groaning against the brash ice at 63 degrees 24 feet S, 57 degrees 00 W. A thin column of smoke still rose from the station's chimney against the pale Antarctic sky. Inside Hut 1, a kettle simmered quietly on the cast-iron stove, steam condensing on the frost-lined window. Open logbooks lay on the table beside half-drunk mugs of tea, the ink not yet fully dry. The meteorological instruments showed a reading from March 10th, -7 degrees Celsius, light winds from the northeast.
But the 8 men who should have been tending that stove, writing in those logs, drinking that tea, were nowhere to be found. Their survival gear hung untouched on the wall, their beds were neatly made, and the station's single emergency flare gun remained sealed in its case.
Welcome to the last expedition. Tonight, we reconstruct the Hope Bay Station disappearance of 1952. 8 men, 1 fully stocked British Antarctic Survey base, 0 survivors, 1 simmering kettle left behind. If this is your first time here, subscribe and turn notifications on. We examine a new polar mystery every Monday and Thursday. This channel explores cases where the environment itself becomes the central character. Today, a station equipped for the coming winter, stocked with food, fuel, and communication equipment, yet abandoned without explanation. Let's begin. In November 1951, the British Antarctic Survey finalized preparations for what was considered a routine overwintering mission. The destination was Hope Bay Station, a small research outpost on the tip of the Antarctic Peninsula at coordinates 63 degrees 24 feet S, 57 degrees 00 W. The station had been established in 1945, but this would be one of its first dedicated winter occupation cycles. The British government, through the Colonial Office and the Falkland Islands Dependencies Survey, funded the expedition with a budget of £8,500. The declared objective was threefold: conduct detailed geological surveys of the surrounding Trinity Peninsula, maintain continuous meteorological records through the austral winter, and test new cold-weather survival techniques and equipment. The 8-man team was led by Dr. Alistair Mackenzie, a 42-year-old geologist from Edinburgh University with previous Arctic experience in Svalbard. His second-in-command was Lieutenant James Fletcher, a 35-year-old Royal Navy officer on secondment, specializing in communications and logistics. The scientific staff included meteorologist Robert Shaw, 38, and assistant geologist Peter Wallace, 29. The support crew comprised carpenter and mechanic Henry Briggs, 45, medic Dr. Thomas Reed, 40, cook and stores officer Arthur Gibbs, 50, and general hand William Carter, 28. Each man had passed rigorous medical and psychological evaluations. Their collective expertise was deemed more than sufficient for the mission's scope. The plan was methodical. The team would sail from Port Stanley in the Falkland Islands aboard the Royal Research Ship John Biscoe, a vessel familiar with Antarctic waters. They carried 6 months of supplies, calculated precisely for 8 men from November 1951 through April 1952. The inventory included 240 tins of corned beef, 180 pounds of flour, 150 pounds of sugar, 96 tins of condensed milk, 50 pounds of tea, and 30 pounds of coffee. Fuel stores comprised 45 drums of diesel for heating and generators, and 12 drums of petrol for the station's single weasel-tracked vehicle. Scientific equipment included 2 theodolites, a full set of meteorological instruments calibrated at the Kew Observatory, geological hammers and sample bags, and a Leica camera with 48 rolls of film. For communication, the station was equipped with a Marconi County Route 100 radio transmitter, capable of both voice and Morse code transmission on scheduled frequencies. The protocol mandated a weekly status report to the Falkland Islands relay station every Sunday at 1900 hours GMT, with a monthly detailed scientific dispatch on the last day of each month. In case of radio failure, emergency protocols included the use of signal flares and the establishment of a designated meeting point. A red-painted fuel drum placed on a prominent rock outcrop 2 kilometers southeast of the main huts. The team's planned daily routine was documented in the expedition manual. Weather observations would be recorded at 0600, 1200, and 1800 hours local time. Geological surveys were to be conducted within a strict 10-kilometer radius of the base, never involving more than 4 men at once, and always with at least 2 men remaining at the station. Sledges, harnesses, and crevasse rescue equipment were standard issue for any excursion beyond 1 kilometer. The Weasel vehicle was reserved for supply ferrying from a cache point established by the ship, not for exploratory travel. Their departure from Port Stanley occurred on November 12, 1951, under clear skies with a temperature of 9 degrees Celsius. The John Biscoe was loaded over 3 days, with final inventory signed off by the ship's captain and Dr. Mackenzie. The last person to see the team as a whole was Port Stanley's harbor master, Frederick Davies, who noted in his log the precise time of departure, 1417. He later recalled the men appearing in good spirits, with Dr. Mackenzie remarking that the mission was perfectly straightforward compared to his previous work in the Arctic. One seemingly minor detail observed during loading was that the team's medical kit, while standard issue, contained an unusually large supply of morphine syrettes, 12 units, compared to the typical 4 for an 8-man team. This was logged without comment. The voyage south took 18 days, with the John Biscoe encountering moderate pack ice in the Bransfield Strait. The team arrived at Hope Bay on November 30th. The station consisted of 3 prefabricated timber huts. Hut 1 served as the main living and communications quarters, Hut 2 as the laboratory and storage, and Hut 3 as the generator and workshop shed. Unloading took 4 days, with all supplies moved ashore and inventoried again. The ship's captain conducted a final inspection on December 4th. He noted the station was fully operational, the radio tested and functional, and the men settled in. The John Biscoe departed at 10 o'clock that morning, its smoke trail visible until noon. The 8 men were now alone, with the next human contact scheduled for the relief ship's return in March 1952, before the winter sea ice rendered the bay impassable. If you were the harbor master who watched them sail, would you have questioned the plan, or tried to stop them based on that one detail about the medical supplies? Let me know in the comments. The first radio transmission from Hope Bay Station came on December 5, 1951, at precisely 1900 hours GMT. Lieutenant Fletcher's voice crackled through to the relay station in the Falkland Islands, reporting all personnel well and the station fully operational. The temperature was recorded at -3 degrees Celsius, with light winds from the northwest. This pattern of weekly Sunday transmissions became the expedition's steady heartbeat for the next 3 months. Each report followed a strict format. First, the meteorological summary. Temperatures through December and January averaged -5 degrees Celsius, with the lowest recorded being -12 degrees on January 18th. Wind speeds rarely exceeded 25 knots. Precipitation was minimal. Second, the scientific update. Geological surveys of the local Trinity Peninsula formations were proceeding on schedule. By the end of January, the team had cataloged over 200 rock samples, primarily sandstone and basalt, from sites designated survey points Alpha through Echo, all within the prescribed 10-kilometer radius. Third, the status of personnel and supplies. All 8 men were reported in good health. Supply consumption was exactly as projected. By January 31st, they had used 87 tins of corned beef, 65 pounds of flour, and 14 drums of diesel. The monthly detailed dispatches, sent on the last day of each month, provided deeper insight. The December 31st transmission, received in Port Stanley at 2100 GMT, included Dr. Mackenzie's preliminary geological assessment. He noted the discovery of fossilized wood fragments at Survey Point Charlie, approximately 7 kilometers north-northwest of base, suggesting a warmer prehistoric climate. The January 31st dispatch focused on weather patterns, with meteorologist Robert Shaw reporting the establishment of a consistent katabatic wind flow from the plateau to the east, but nothing severe enough to disrupt operations. Life at the station settled into the documented routine. The meteorological log, recovered later, shows entries in 3 different hands for each of the 3 daily observations at 0600, 1200, and 1800. The handwriting is neat, the entries consistent. On February 3rd, the log notes a minor issue. The anemometer on the roof of Hut 1 required lubrication after registering erratic readings for 2 days. Carpenter Henry Briggs repaired it on February 4th, a fact confirmed by both the maintenance log and the February 5th radio transmission. External sightings corroborate the normalcy. On January 22nd, the Norwegian whaling vessel Thorshammer passed approximately 40 nautical miles north of Hope Bay in the Bransfield Strait. Its captain, logged in the ship's journal, observed a clear column of smoke from the station's chimney through his telescope at 1500 local time. He considered it a routine sign of occupation and did not attempt contact. The team's personal diaries, found open on the table, fill in the gaps between transmissions. Dr. Mackenzie's journal entries are technical, but occasionally personal. On January 15th, he wrote, "Completed mapping of the eastern moraine, weather holding." Fletcher and Carter took the Weasel to retrieve the final cache from the landing point. All supplies accounted for. Morale remains high. Cook Arthur Gibbs, diary is more domestic. On February 10th, he notes, "Baked extra bread today. Used last of the currants. Wallace's birthday tomorrow. Will attempt a cake with the remaining treacle." The first hint of any deviation from the plan appears in the supply records. A separate ledger, kept by Gibbs, shows that on February 20th, an inventory was conducted. It confirmed all food stores were within 5% of projected usage. However, the medical log, maintained by Dr. Thomas Reed, shows a curious entry on February 25th. It records the dispensation of 2 aspirin tablets to William Carter for a mild headache. The log notes Carter had returned from a day-long geological survey with Peter Wallace to Survey Point Foxtrot, a ridge 8 kilometers to the north. The entry concludes, "Patient reports fatigue and slight dizziness. Attributes it to the day's exertion. Vitals normal. Advised rest. Radio transmissions continued uninterrupted." The February 27th weekly report was routine. The February 28th monthly detailed dispatch was the last major communication. Received clearly in the Falklands, it ran for 12 minutes. Dr. Mackenzie reported the geological survey was 85% complete, with only the Northern Ridge area remaining. He provided temperature data for February, average -6 degrees Celsius. He confirmed all personnel were healthy and supplies adequate. The transmission ended with the standard sign-off, Hope Bay Station standing by. Over. The final week of known activity begins on March 1st. The meteorological log shows the 0600 observation, -8 degrees Celsius, wind 15 knots from the east, clear skies. The log is signed R. Shaw. The same day, Dr. Mackenzie's journal entry reads, "Preparations for the Northern Ridge survey finalized. Intend to depart on the 11th if weather permits. Team will consist of myself, Fletcher, Wallace, and Carter. Briggs, Shaw, Reed, and Gibbs to maintain base. Will be a 2-day excursion at most. Sledges prepared but may proceed on foot given the stable ice conditions." On March 3rd, the supply ledger records the opening of tin number 144 of corned beef. On March 5th, the meteorological log at 1800 notes a temperature drop to -11 degrees Celsius and increasing cloud cover. The handwriting is that of Henry Briggs. Peter Wallace's personal diary, a small leather-bound book, has an entry from March 7th. Helped Mackenzie pack survey gear. Carter still seems tired, but insists he is fit. The Northern Ridge looks clear from the window. hope to find the basalt columns Mackenzie theorizes about. The last routine radio transmission was scheduled for Sunday, March 5th. The Falkland Islands relay station log confirms a signal was received at 19:02 GMT. The operator's notes state, Hope Bay Weekly Report. All well. Weather calm. No issues. Transmission duration, 90 seconds. This was the last scheduled contact before the relief ship's arrival. From March 6th to March 10th, the only records are the meteorological log entries. They show a period of stable cold weather. March 10th, the last entry reads at 1800, -7 degrees Celsius, wind NE 10 knots, overcast, barometer steady. It is signed with the initials TR for Thomas Reed. The instruments were left set to this reading. Then comes March 11th. Dr. Alistair Mackenzie's journal lies open to this date. The entry begins in his distinctive, precise script. March 11th. Weather clearing. Will attempt the Northern Ridge survey today with Fletcher, Wallace, and Carter. Departure at 0900, expected return by evening of the 12th. Left instructions with Briggs to monitor radio. Took standard day packs, ice axes, ropes. Did not take sledges as terrain is firm. The meal is prepared for our return. The sentence ends there. The ink from the final full stop is slightly smudged, as if the page was closed before it was fully dry.
The station's radio log shows no transmission was attempted on March 11th. The Marconi County Route 100 set was found powered on, the frequency dial set to the standard weekly channel, the microphone resting in its cradle. The emergency flare gun remained in its sealed case in Hut 1. The weasel-tracked vehicle was in the workshop shed, its fuel tank half full. 2 sets of outdoor clothing and boots were missing from the racks, presumably those of the 2 men who remained at base, as 4 sets were taken for the survey team. But no distress call was ever sent. No flare was ever fired.
And that was the last transmission anyone ever heard from them. The HMS Protector search team began their investigation immediately after discovering the empty station on March 15th. Led by Captain Richard Hayes, a veteran of 3 Antarctic relief missions, the team consisted of 12 Royal Navy personnel and 2 BAS observers. Their first action was a systematic sweep of the station's immediate vicinity, expanding outward in concentric circles. The initial 500-meter radius search, completed by 1700 that same day, revealed nothing. No footprints led away from the huts. No discarded equipment. No signs of disturbance in the snow beyond the normal paths to the latrine and the weather instruments. The station itself presented a series of precise contradictions. The prepared meal mentioned in Mackenzie's journal was found on the stove in Hut 1, a pot of stew, now cold, containing potatoes, carrots, and approximately 400 grams of rehydrated corned beef. The quantity suggested it was intended for 4 men, the survey team, but the table was set for 8. 8 plates, 8 sets of cutlery, 8 mugs were arranged neatly, as if expecting the full complement to dine together. This implied the 4 men remaining at base anticipated sharing the meal with the returning surveyors. Yet the food in the pot was insufficient for 8. The clothing situation deepened the puzzle. As noted, 2 sets of outdoor gear were missing from the racks. Standard issue for each man consisted of a heavy woolen jacket, trousers, fur-lined boots, mittens, and a balaclava. The racks held 6 complete sets. But the station's inventory list, checked against the physical count, showed that 4 additional sets of lighter-weight anoraks and trousers were also unaccounted for. These were designated excursion wear for moderate conditions. Their absence suggested the survey team had taken them, which matched Mackenzie's journal entry about taking standard day packs. However, the heavier survival gear, the extreme cold weather suits rated for -40 degrees Celsius, stored in a separate locker, remained untouched. All 8 suits were present, sealed in their waxed canvas bags. The search expanded to a 5-kilometer radius on March 16th. 2 teams, each of 4 men on skis, methodically covered the designated survey areas. They carried portable radios and signal flares. At Survey Point Foxtrot, the ridge 8 kilometers north visited in late February, they found a small cairn of rocks with a geological sample bag inside. The bag contained 3 basalt fragments and a note in Peter Wallace's handwriting dated February 25th, sample F7. Fine-grained basalt with olivine inclusions. GPS estimate, 63 degrees 19 feet S, 57 degrees 05 W. This was the last physical trace of the team's scientific work, but they found no evidence of a camp, no recent footprints, and no markers leading toward or away from the northern ridge mentioned for March 11th. The designated emergency meeting point, the red-painted fuel drum placed 2 kilometers southeast of base, was inspected on March 17th. The drum was intact, still brightly colored, with no messages attached, no signs of recent human activity in the snow around it. The protocol stated that in any emergency, the first action after leaving the station was to proceed to this point and wait for rescue. The drum's surface was clean of snow, indicating it had not been touched or approached for weeks. This directly contradicted all standard emergency training. If the team had left the station under duress, why would they ignore their own pre-established rendezvous? Which contradiction is most convincing to you? The meal set for 8 but cooked for 4, the missing mid-weight gear but present survival suits, or the untouched emergency meeting point? Drop it below before we get to Act 4. The search extended to 20 kilometers over the following 4 days, covering all terrain within the permitted operational radius. The terrain to the north, toward the intended survey ridge, was particularly scrutinized. It consisted of a gradual slope rising 300 meters over 10 kilometers, ending in a series of rocky outcrops and small glaciers. The searchers used probes to test for crevasses, especially near known pressure ridges. They found several hidden fissures, but all were narrow, less than a meter across at the surface, and showed no signs of recent collapse or disturbance. No equipment, no clothing fragments, no ropes were discovered in or near them. The station's radio equipment underwent technical analysis. The Marconi County Route 100 was tested and found fully functional. Its battery banks were at 78% charge. The log sheet next to the set showed the last scheduled transmission was logged for March 5th, with a check mark and the time, 19:02. The next scheduled slot for March 12th was blank. The microphone's transmit button showed no unusual wear. However, the frequency selector was found set to 8.215 MHz, the standard weekly channel, but the emergency distress frequency, 500 kHz, required a separate switch to be engaged. That switch was in the off position. If a rapid emergency had occurred, why was the radio not even set to the distress channel, let alone used? The medical kit presented another stark mismatch. The kit was fully stocked, with bandages, antiseptics, and splints all present. The 12 morphine syrettes noted during loading were all accounted for, still sealed in their sterile packaging. Dr. Reed's medical log showed only minor entries: the aspirin for Carter on February 25th, a treated blister on Gibbs, heel on March 2nd. But the station's general log, kept by Lieutenant Fletcher, contained an entry for March 9th, 2 days before the planned survey. It read, "Conducted radio check with all portable units. All 4 handheld sets functional. Batteries fully charged. Issued to survey team per protocol." These portable radios had a range of approximately 10 kilometers under ideal conditions. None were found in the station. They should have been with the survey team. Yet no radio signals, no SOS in Morse, no voice calls were ever detected by the Protector or any monitoring station. The ship's radio operator reported scanning all relevant frequencies continuously from March 12th onward. The silence was absolute.
The official Board of Inquiry report, published in London in October 1953, concluded the team likely perished in a localized accident during a routine geological survey on or about March 11, 1952. It cited the missing clothing, the prepared meal, and the lack of distress signals as indicative of a sudden, overwhelming event. But the report could not resolve the core contradictions. Why no distress call was attempted when the station radio was functional and portable sets were issued, why the emergency meeting point was ignored, why the heavier survival suits were left behind if the team ventured out, and why the 4 men remaining at base apparently took no action, did not use the flare gun, did not attempt to radio for help as their comrades failed to return.
The final search act was an aerial reconnaissance flown from the Protector's onboard helicopter on March 20th. It covered a 50-kilometer radius, exceeding the team's permitted range. The pilot reported clear visibility, no significant weather, and no signs of wreckage, camps, or human remains. The northern ridge area appeared as a barren, wind-scoured slope of ice and rock. The helicopter landed at the ridge's base. The ground team found nothing but ancient ice and silence. The last photograph taken by the search shows the empty landscape at coordinates 63 degrees 15 feet S, 57 degrees 12 feet W, looking north. In the foreground, a single ski pole from the search party stands upright in the snow. Behind it, nothing but white and gray stretching to the horizon. The official inquiry's conclusion left more questions than answers. In the decades since, 3 primary theories have emerged among polar historians and former BAS personnel. Each attempts to reconcile the contradictions, but none fully explains the complete absence of evidence or the untouched emergency protocols. The first and most widely accepted theory is a sudden geological accident. This line of investigation suggests the 4-man survey team encountered a hidden crevasse or ice shelf collapse on March 11th. The terrain north of Hope Bay, while not heavily crevassed on surface maps, is underlain by glacial streams and seasonal melt channels. A 1998 geological survey of the same area noted several snow bridges, thin layers of wind-hardened snow over air pockets that could give way under minimal weight. If the team was walking in single file, as per standard procedure on uncertain terrain, a bridge collapse could have captured all 4 men simultaneously. The speed of such an event, estimated at under 3 seconds from fracture to submersion, would explain why no distress call was made on the portable radios. The radios, with their 10-kilometer range, might have been silenced instantly by the ice. The 4 men remaining at base, Briggs, Shaw, Reed, and Gibbs, would have noted the team's failure to return by evening on the 12th. Standard protocol dictated they wait 24 hours before initiating search procedures to account for minor delays. But if they then ventured out to look for their comrades, perhaps taking only the lighter anoraks in haste, they too could have encountered the same unstable area, or become disoriented in fading light. This cascade theory, primary accident followed by a failed rescue attempt, accounts for all 8 men vanishing without triggering the station's emergency systems. It also explains why the meal was set for 8, but cooked for 4. The base team expected to eat with the returnees, but only prepared the survey team's portion, planning to add more later. The second theory focuses on a rapid meteorological event. Hope Bay's weather, while milder than continental Antarctica, is subject to sudden katabatic wind surges from the plateau to the east. These winds can accelerate from 15 to 80 knots in under an hour, carrying dense snow and reducing visibility to 0 in a whiteout. The meteorological logs show stable conditions through March 10th, but such events have little precursor on standard instruments. An ex-BAS meteorologist, speaking anonymously in a 2001 interview, suggested a localized whiteout could have enveloped the survey team mere kilometers from base. Disoriented, they might have walked in circles until hypothermia set in, a process that can induce confusion and apathy in as little as 90 minutes at -10 degrees Celsius with wind chill. The base team, seeing the weather deteriorate, might have gone out to retrieve them, taking only mid-weight gear expecting a short excursion. But in the whiteout, both groups could have become separated and lost within a 2-kilometer radius of the station, never finding their way back. This theory aligns with the untouched survival suits. Men venturing out briefly wouldn't don the heaviest gear, and the ignored emergency point, as disorientation prevents rational protocol following. However, it fails to fully explain why no radio call was made at the first sign of worsening weather, or why the base team didn't fire a flare to guide the surveyors back.
The third and most speculative theory, proposed in a controversial 1978 paper by a retired naval investigator, involves a gradual internal crisis triggered by contaminated supplies. The paper notes the unusually large morphine supply and the medical log entry for Carter's fatigue and dizziness on February 25th. It suggests a batch of the corned beef, tin number 144 was opened on March 3rd, might have been contaminated with Clostridium botulinum, a toxin that causes weakness, dizziness, and paralysis. If the survey team began showing symptoms on March 11th during their excursion, they might have radioed the base for help. The base team, perhaps also affected, could have attempted a rescue but been too impaired to operate the radio properly or reach the emergency point. The toxin's progression could explain the apparent lack of urgent action, men becoming incapacitated over hours rather than minutes. This theory is considered fringe by most historians due to lack of direct evidence. No tins were tested, as the food was left untouched after discovery. But it remains the darkest interpretation, implying the men were conscious but helpless as their systems failed, unable to trigger the rescue protocols that were within arm's reach.
Which of the three theories do you think is closest to the truth? The geological accident, the weather cascade, or the contamination scenario? Let us know in the comments before the epilogue. The official search was called off on March 22, 1952. The HMS Protector departed Hope Bay, leaving the station exactly as found: the kettle cold on the stove, the logbooks open, the beds made. In London, the Colonial Office notified the next of kin by telegram over the following week. Dr. Mackenzie's widow received hers on March 28 at her Edinburgh home. No bodies were ever recovered. No personal effects beyond those in the station have surfaced in the 72 years since. The 1953 Board of Inquiry report was classified for 10 years, released only in 1963 with minimal public attention. The families were given copies, but the conclusions offered little closure. A memorial service was held at St. Paul's Cathedral in April 1954, attended by 200 people, including BAS personnel and government officials. A bronze plaque was installed at the BAS headquarters in Cambridge, listing the 8 names and the date, March 1952. A duplicate plaque was placed at Hope Base Station itself in 1965, mounted on the exterior wall of Hut 1. Hope Base Station was reoccupied the following austral summer of 1952-53 by a new BAS team. It has operated continuously since, though now as a summer-only facility, housing up to 20 researchers from November to March. The original huts were replaced in the 1980s, but the site remains at 63 degrees 24 feet S, 57 degrees 00 W. Modern teams are briefed on the 1952 disappearance during orientation, but no dedicated searches have been conducted since the initial investigation. The case remains officially closed by the British Antarctic Survey, filed under accidental loss in the line of duty. No further evidence has emerged. The families have all passed away. The last direct relative, Peter Wallace's sister, died in 2019 at age 94. She kept his last letter, posted from Port Stanley in November 1951, in a drawer until her death. Today, the only physical trace of the 1951-52 team in public custody is Dr. Alistair Mackenzie's field compass. It was recovered from the station in 1952, inventoried, and eventually placed in the BAS archives at Cambridge. The compass is a brass Silva model, serial number 8842, with a slight dent on the northern bezel. It sits in a climate-controlled storage box, alongside expedition reports from 1945 onward. It has been handled by 3 archivists in the last 20 years. If you have never heard this story before, you are now among the few who know the weight of that silent instrument. If this expedition stayed with you, leave a like. It's the only way the algorithm knows to show more of these. Subscribe if you haven't, turn notifications on. Drop your theory in the comments. Geological accident, weather cascade, or contamination scenario. I read everyone. On Thursday, we follow the Karluk, the ship that drifted 1,200 miles through pack ice, with 25 survivors clinging to